And so speak of the devil, when you sit there and he popped his collar. He's ready to go. So you see, now he's completely, totally ready. Cap, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, John. I wasn't going to leave you hanging twice in a row.
Oh, no. See, but that's the thing is that with the holidays, I figured that you being the family man that you are, you had massive family plans. You had a lot of wrapping duty. And you have to do it. Do you still, when you're wrapping presents, do you still have to do it fairly clandestine, or can you do it out in the open? What is the Santa Claus intel in the Parkhurst household?
Well, my wife does all the wrapping, John, because she loves wrapping.
Okay.
I cannot do it well enough for her
Really?
liking. She's like a professional. I'm pretty sure that when she retires someday, like she'll be this old lady that just does free wrapping for people because she just loves it.
Just from door to door, free wrapping. I'll go ahead and wrap all your gifts for you.
Totally. So I get out of that job, thankfully.
Excellent.
Yeah.
See now, what I have done is I have enlisted nieces. I sit there and it's like, you don't want me. Look, I'm the guy of full disclosure, story time with John. 1 year, the boss, she likes spicy food, and a particular potato chip, I should say potato crisp, because they're not potato chips with these folks. They came out with a limited edition release of sriracha flavored potato crisps. And so I go to the store and I buy them out. I mean, limited edition. And I buy like 15 of those canisters, and I wrapped it like a Gatling gun. It was like in a pyramid 4-3. And I'm just wrapping it like this, and I don't care what it looks like. That's what I do when I wrap. It's like, okay, do I care about squares and neat folded corners and things like that? No, I either enlist the nieces or I just wrap it and it looks like a mess, and it's almost like the gag gift of the entire Christmas holiday.
Your gift is easy to pick out from under the tree.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So how was the holiday, by the way?
Fantastic. Yeah, it was great. We stayed put, had some family come to us. So hosted for a few days here, and low key. So it was nice.
Excellent. All right. Now, since we have turned to the first of the year, it's training camp coming around, and I know that there are folks who have been in our timeline on the Twitch pitch, and there have been folks reaching out to us on social media asking if you and Greg have any desires. Do you guys have any eligibility left? Do you want to kind of show up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground and help things out? That's what folks are asking so far this year.
The mind has got eligibility, but I don't think the legs do.
What's it like to watch training camp happen again, and you're there in your MLS sweatshirt and cap, and you're just kind of sitting there in the office and sitting there going, man, while it's cool, I don't miss it.
Not at all. There are certain things about retiring that, of course, you miss a lot. But I don't miss what they're going to go through the next 5 weeks, right? That's probably one of the main reasons why I did retire, was because my last preseason, I remember going in and my mind was telling my feet to do things way faster than my feet were reacting to do those things. And I was just so late on everything and just so slow. And I thought, oh my goodness, what is going on right now? I just couldn't do it fast enough. And, as preseason progressed, obviously you get cut up to speed a little bit, but man, it was rough. And just the fitness and everything is just, no thanks. I'll leave it for the younger guys.
Yeah, it's like, nah, you're good. You go for it. It's all you. And when you look at things specifically, we can talk about Atlanta United for a second. And leading into this training camp where everybody's starting to wander in, they're going to get their medicals. They're going to get the hammer attached to the cross knee to sit there and check reflexes and everything. This is going to be a different looking franchise. And there's still a lot of questions whether folks are going to be around or not. There's been a lot of shifting, and we haven't even gotten to the first practice yet.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of question marks going on right now. And, I think it's good because we obviously needed to make changes, right? The last year wasn't good enough. And so changes needed to be made. But yeah, when I was looking at Matthew Doyle's recent breakdown of all the teams, he does a really good job on MLS Soccer of, breaking every team down and doing lists and charts and all this stuff. And I was looking at Atlanta United compared to some of these other Eastern teams, and I was like, man, the roster's not in a great spot. It really is not. If I'm being completely honest and looking at it, there's a lot of gaps, and there's a lot of depth issues. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done here in the next 6 weeks to really get this team ready, not just to make the playoffs, right? The goal for Atlanta United should never just be to make the playoffs, right? It should be to contend. And we're a ways away from, I think, being able to contend.
Yeah. So, you've had movement with starting players going out on loan, and the benefit of Atlanta United being the global brand that it is that you don't have to be as insular as you might have been if you were another franchise. And dealing specifically in Major League Soccer, there's loans going out, there's searches going on around the planet. I mean, I've heard that there's like a center back on Neptune that they might be checking on, with Atlanta United. That's the reach that you have here. And I think that it is a key offseason with Garth Lagerwey coming in to be in the front office, looking at things from the business perspective. It is a key offseason, but with the youth that's been developed and the wiggle room that you've been given because of an Emerson Hyndman agreeing to mutually terminate contracts, players being loaned out, there is that wiggle room there. This will be one of the toughest exams, if you want to call it that, for the front office.
Totally. And the biggest question mark still has not been addressed at all, right? And it's not good, in my opinion. If Joseph, with Joseph, what's going on with Joseph? Is he coming back or not? And based off of the reports from last year, the end of last year, it seems like he's not, right? And then so if that's the case, and I saw something today that he's expected to be there for physicals today, and it's like, man, a lot needs to be done, right? Because even if he's there physically, I'd have a tough time believing that he's there mentally. And it just causes a huge distraction within the locker room, right? You don't know if he's going to be there or not. And it's like a decision needs to be made. And if he's staying, then, mend that relationship and let him know that he's part of the plans, and that, and come out and say that, or vice versa. Hey, he's not going to be a part of this team, and don't have him be around the team and figure it out. That to me is the biggest question mark, and it needs to be addressed soon, because otherwise it just lingers on, and questions and media and guys, and you just don't want that around the locker room. And so all these other moves are happening, which is great. You need those pieces, but the biggest move is still yet to be made.
So one of our contributors here on the network, Bart Keeler, who does the Soccer for US pod, he's in this morning, and he's asking, he says, I think we may have lost focus on creating winning teams for building a big club. How do you think we refocus on winning on the field? That's Bart's question this morning.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, right? I think that, how do you create a winning team, right? Do you go get players that are in their prime, that are ready to step in and win right now? Or do you go get those guys, that are a little bit more unproven, like Almiron, maybe, like Barco, like Almada a little bit, that you can then sell on, and that's been the Atlanta United blueprint.
Yeah. Shouldn't the answer just be yes, choice D, all of the above? Although that is a delicate dance.
It should be, but the record over the past 18, 24 months of signing those players outside of Almada hasn't been good. And so we're spending a lot of money on these players, and it's not panning out. So that's what makes it really challenging. And so there's no quick, easy fix, right? You have to. That's why the Joseph thing becomes so important, right? Because even if you pay him out, right, and you say, oh, he's not part of our plans, thank you, but we're moving on, then pay him out, and then you've got that spot open, and you can do something with it, and that becomes obviously the biggest decision for the club, because you can't get that big one wrong again. We've gotten some medium-sized decisions wrong on players. You can't get the biggest one wrong. It sets you back a lot. And so and maybe they don't have that player to replace him yet. And so that's why they're hanging on and trying to still figure it out. And maybe they don't want to pay him out. They're trying to trade him within MLS, and that's taken a little bit of time because it's complicated. Right. But I like the Etienne signing. Like those types of signings are critical for MLS teams. Like we said, like you have to have those veteran players that have been around the league that are good for the locker room. That's what we had with myself and Jeff and Brad and Darlington and Justin Miram and I'm blanking on Peterson, Jake Peterson, and even Bobby Boswell for a short amount of time. Like even if they're not playing a massive role, they're important for the club and for the locker room. And we don't have a ton of that right now, especially when Brad went down last year and Miles. So I think the signings like that are good. Hopefully Miles has come back. I just see what he's been doing in the off season, and it looks strong, looks good. So hopefully he comes back fit, ready to go. And same with Brad. It'll make a huge difference, but still big question marks in the middle of the field, which is important. I haven't seen anything on Ozzy Alonso. Hopefully he's coming back, but I don't know what you can realistically expect out of a 38-year-old. Is he 37? Coming off an ACL tear, playing on turf. I mean, what can you really expect? I don't know. So the middle of the field is a big question mark for me. So yeah, there's a lot, but it can be done. They've got money. They're clearing out a lot of space. So they can do it. Joseph is still there. If they can turn that ship around and keep him, then great. You're in a much better spot. And if they can't, then it's doable with the money they have and the space they have. It's just finding the right pieces.
Do you, with your mentees, do you have these real world discussions about whether it's the business world or whether it's about the business of soccer? How deep are those conversations? How inquisitive are your mentees about what it's like to be a professional athlete in this day and age?
A little bit. And just because we only work with a few mentors mentees that it's applicable to, but yeah. And even I speak with Joseph too. And, and I don't view myself as a mentor to Joseph so much as a friend, but I think that we've learned in this world that you have to look out for yourself, and you want to be a team player and be part of a team and give everything you have for the team, because that's what's going to bring success, even individually, and to win titles is fun and all that, but it's a dog eat dog world sometimes in this professional realm, and clubs will do whatever they want and whatever is best for them. And so as an athlete, you have to look out for yourself first, because, it's short lived and you need to make it while you can. And like I said, you can get traded tomorrow and clubs will just move on from you, and things keep going. So, I truthfully, I tell Joseph, don't leave $1 on the table, right? You've earned the contract that you have right now. I thought he was even underpaid at the time when he signed that deal. So my advice was him, don't leave $1. If they need to pay you out, they pay you out. And otherwise you take it because he's earned it. And, that's the same thing with other mentees, right? You tell them, hey, you want and hope that people have your back and will respect you and do what's best for you all the time, but that's not the case, unfortunately. And so you always need to be having that thought of like, okay, what's best for me? How can I improve myself? And taking ownership of that journey and not relying on other people to always make things happen for yourself.
As
a little blunt, but
No, but at the same time, have those conversations altered in any way as professional sports have become more lucrative? I mean, how difficult was it for you to look out for yourself when your career was starting versus maybe your last contract by comparison? How has it changed in looking out for yourself in one aspect to the latter parts of your career?
Totally, and then there's that fine line that we always talk about, right? As a young guy, you don't have any power and you don't have any influence or anything like that. So you got to go out and you got to grind and you got to prove it first, for sure, right? It's not like, oh, I'm not getting playing time, let me go find a new club, right? No, you got to grind, you got to earn it, and you got to make it work. And shoot, I came into the league making like $30,000, and I thought I was living king-like because, guys like Jeff Lorenowitz were making like $15,000. So, these young guys are living a good life right now, making 80, 70, 80 plus. So the grind is a little bit different, but it's still physically and mentally still a grind. And they have to earn the fact that they can then use some of their power and look out for themselves. But yeah, you have to earn that first, in those early years, and show that you're willing to put that work in, and deserve to continue to be a pro.
Michael Parkhurst, Beyond Goals Mentoring here for the Friday Free Kick, hanging out with us here on SDH. Can we talk national team a little bit?
Oh, hey, why not?
Okay. Well, I mean, we're having blunt conversations this morning, but what I wanted to do, and like I said, you can address this as bluntly as you wish, or we can turn it into a mentee issue, because there's that aspect of it as well. Everything going on since you've represented the country and you know what it means. Everything going on with Greg Berhalter and the front office and the Fed and the Reynas. Have you ever seen anything as wild as what we've seen in the last couple of days?
No, not at that level, right? I mean, you're reading this stuff and you're hearing about it and you're like, oh my God, like this is the stuff we're trying to eliminate as a society from youth sports, right? Every youth coach out there is like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. You've got a mom calling up the boss, complaining about whatever the coach is doing. Like, what are we doing right now? It's sad. It honestly is sad. I don't know the Reynas at all. I've met Claudia once briefly, but I don't know them at all. And so I hate to pass judgment without knowing the complete story or anything. But regardless, the entire debacle is sad for U.S. soccer. It's sad for sports. It's a terrible sight for youth athletes, youth parents, for anybody to see. It's just ridiculous, because this is the stuff that we all know. Politics is a part of sports, and it's too big a part of sports all the time. And this is just like now at the very, very highest level, you see like, oh, here's a family trying to get involved in what's going on with the national team. It's just unbelievable. And I think that there's mistakes made, right? I was surprised when Greg came out initially about that story about the player almost getting kicked off the team. Everyone then quickly makes the assumption that it's Gio Reyna, right? And so I was surprised at the time, because that's not something that you'd really come out with and say. There's no need to. There's no reason to, if it hadn't already gotten out. And I saw something that he said he thought it was on off the record and stuff, but he should know better than that, right? There's nothing as off the record. And so I was surprised that he said that and it came out. But at the same time, like if it happened to my kid, there's no way, even if I had a relationship with the GM, there's no way I'm making that phone call or anything like that. Like there's only one reason why you make that phone call. And so, yeah, it's just a terrible, terrible look for both families. I feel for Greg's wife. Like she didn't deserve any of this. it's sad for U.S. soccer.
And the reason that I wanted to ask the mentee follow up is because I wanted to ask how prevalent that helicopter parenting still is, whether it's, something that you directly see or something that anecdotally or anything like that. How prevalent is it still today in the circles that you're either directly in or get the chance to view? How active is that still these days, do you think?
I think it's very prevalent, very active. I think that there's a lot of parents out there that want the kid to, or their kids or children to get to a higher level than the child actually cares to or wants to or is dedicated to. And I don't know if they're living vicariously through their children or their mistakes, or they didn't do it when they were young and now want their child to try and do it for them as well. And so there's a lot of it, and it's not great. It's unhealthy. It's short-lived, right? The one thing I always say is like that in order to get to the highest level with anything really, but obviously, I'm talking about soccer, the drive's got to be internal. And if the drive's coming from mom and dad or even coach or somebody else, it's short-lived. It's not gonna take you all the way, right? Because there's going to be those moments where the grind is rough and mom and dad aren't there, or coach isn't there, right? And it's on your own. And if the drive isn't internal, that's it. It's going to come to an end. Mentally, it's just going to be too much, or physically can't deal with it anymore. And so I think sometimes as parents, we're not doing our children a good service by letting them grind through some of those things and figure things out and see if that drive is within them rather than providing it for them. But yeah, it's really prevalent, and I feel for Gio in this case, right? I doubt he was like, "Hey, mom, can you call up Ernie for me?" And obviously Gio himself has some growing to do. And, I thought his response to the whole thing, his Instagram post was pretty good, right? He said, I didn't expect for any of this to come out. I made a mistake. You got to own the mistakes. And, I thought he did that. But yeah, it's rough for him. It's terrible look, right? You've got mom out there defending you. And people are going to hate on Gio because of that. But I doubt Gio asked mom to do that. And I'm sure there's plenty of moms and dads out there that have, been upset with coach about why is my kid not playing, or why is this, or why is that, right? And it's just a lack of taking ownership and looking at things realistically. Like, oh, maybe my kid's not good enough, or maybe his attitude's not good enough, or maybe it's because of me. So yeah, it's always been a problem in these sports, and it's still here.
Do you have to, and I'll ask this two separate directions. I said, do you have to face this as a mentor? Do you see it yourself? I mean, and have to address these kinds of things either as a parent or a mentor? Have you had to be in these situations where you've had to kind of sort things out and kind of lay down the law here?
A little bit, yeah. We try and do it as PC as we can, and a lot of times, especially when we do things in group sessions, we encourage parents to be there, because we do talk about some of these topics, and sometimes we're looking at the kids and talking, but we're speaking to the parents, and they should understand that. And then individually, we always try and have a parent involved every now and then, and it's easy for us to see how involved or over involved the parent is. And there's been a couple instances where we've had to say, I think that the child might be feeling some of pressure or anxiety due to some of the stuff that's going on at the house or coming from inside the family. And so you may want to look at that or address it, but it's just feedback from what we're seeing, and usually they're pretty receptive of it. Sometimes they don't even know that what's going on, or that it's occurring, or that they could be doing that to their children. So Yeah, unfortunately, it's something that we've dealt with before. But again, we're trying to give these kids the best opportunity to have success in whatever they do, and so are mom and dad. But sometimes they just don't understand the harm that they're doing.
Yeah, they don't understand the knock-on effects because, say, in Gio Reyna's case, you're talking about his team in Germany and his value to them, which is now damaged because, if Gio completely balls out in the Bundesliga, then you're still going to have that specter hanging over him if you want to sit there and move Gio on and have that next big contract with a transfer with a sell-on fee. They're impacted. The national team is impacted. Austin FC is impacted because of Claudio's employment. There are all of these different little knock-on effects that I don't think parents may necessarily realize. And I know that we were using the Reynas specifically with all of their different knock-on effects, but parents don't necessarily understand that it's not just this linear thing where, okay, I'm here and I'm trying to either live vicariously through my child or I'm having this impact through my child. It's a three-dimensional thing here, and I don't think parents necessarily understand that a lot of the time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's absolutely, and I think that some of it is just emotion filled, right? And a lot of times we have to take a step back and let those emotions play out without doing anything, right? Don't take the action right away. We tell our mentees that, right? Especially on the field, right? You could be frustrated, right? Upset at a call with a referee, but don't yell at them right away, right? Take a breath or turn around and yell to the air, because those immediate reactions are what gets you in trouble. And I don't know if this was immediate reaction, but it feels like it was. But yeah, now you've got a national team coach maybe not getting the job. Now you've got a GM at MLS maybe getting fired. It's just the knock-on effects. You've got a player now that's probably embarrassed a little bit. So yeah, it's just crazy.
All right, so let's wrap up by talking 2023. Let's go crystal ball here for Beyond Goals. Look back at 22 for me and what you and Greg are looking for in 2023. What do you guys have on the to-do list that you want to accomplish in 2023 for me?
Yeah, I think two things. One is we want to get more videos. Well, we just created a YouTube channel and we want to get more videos up there and available for public consumption to help out more people and to spread some of the mentoring messaging. But also we want to have small clippets of questions from athletes, right? So if we've got Nagby on there answering a question about something and, other Brad and just a whole host of other athletes, retired and current, answering questions about the mental side of the game, about nutrition, about fitness, about off-season workouts, this, that, and the other thing, that can just be informational for people that are just looking for that consumption. And so that's number one, or 1A or B, I don't even know. But the second thing is the nonprofit side of things. We want to have a bigger outreach to those that can't afford our services and to spread our knowledge out there. So those two things are at the top of the list for 2023.
How does it feel to have grown Beyond Goals to where it is now? And I know that you sit there when you take that big leap and you want to start something. What's it been like to see what you and Greg have been able to build so far, knowing that there's so much more that you want to accomplish?
Yeah, it's been exciting. It's been a really fun ride. We came in with little expectations and they're kind of like, hey, let's start this up, see what we can do. And we've been really thrilled with the feedback that we've gotten, the ability for us to have outreach, to connect with kids and really help some players develop and take the next step. So that's been really, really rewarding. And we think that there's a lot more that we can do. And even if we expand it somewhere down the line, but there's definitely a need for mentorship, for the mental side of the game, for outreach. So we don't know exactly where the end game is, but we're going to try and figure it out.
Okay.
See that question.
Yes,
Sorry.
we got extra time here, so we're going into extra time. David, Michael is a parent. I don't watch practice as I want the coach to coach him and try to keep myself out of that, and I don't have the time. Some watch every minute and then can talk about practice at home. Is there an age or time or thoughts on which of these styles might best benefit your child?
Yeah, one thing I'll say is there's a lot of I don't know if you've ever heard the term practice player, right? Where you've got these players that are very good at practice and then they get to the game and they don't play as well.
Ranger honestly, golf. Absolutely.
And some of that I feel is because they don't have the parents yelling at them at practice, because a lot of parents don't sit there and watch practice, right? The kids are just free to play and they're out there with the coach and their buddies and it's just fun and they're learning and they're doing it, right? And so there's less pressure and there's less, eyeballs and there's less communication from parents. And so there's definitely a benefit to that. I love watching my kids as much as I can. And so I love watching their practices. So I go to all their practices that I can go to. But I try not to sit right next to the field, and I don't say a word. And after practice, I usually don't say a word either. I let them talk about stuff that they want to talk about. Unless I saw like an issue come up, and then I'll ask about an issue, but I try not to give any critique, any advice, unless they're asking for it, which is a rarity. Because even with my kids, even when my son played soccer, he doesn't anymore. Didn't want to hear it from me, because I didn't know as much as the coach. And so, it's a challenge because we want to help our kids as much as possible. But sometimes the best help is no help, is just letting them get coached by their coach, because their coach likely knows more than us and can get into them and has more of an effect than we do, even if we know more than the coach, which I would assume I did, but maybe not.
Well, Cap, as always, it's great to have you on Fridays, and we can pull the curtain back. I know that some of these weeks are more frank conversations than others, but I think that it's all very, very beneficial for everyone that watches the game, as a part of the game, has folks invested in the game. Thanks for hanging out with us once again at BG Mentoring and at MF Parkhurst on the Twitters. Cap, we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Sounds good, John. Thanks.